You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I hope wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing, you are doing very well. You're about to listen to a conversation with Alissa White-Gluz. She is the frontwoman for Arch Enemy, or is it Arch Enemy? Either way, you know who I'm talking about. The reason for the conversation was to promote the band's appearance at the Download Festival, which was due to occur in March of 2018. Let's have a listen to what Alissa has to say. Here we go. Alissa, welcome to the show. You certainly have some keen fans down here in Australia looking forward to the show that you'll put on in March next year. What can you tell us about the show that you're bringing down to Australia?
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be only my second time ever in Australia, and I've seen a huge buzz and a huge demand for Australia, for Arch Enemy to come to Australia. So I'm excited to get there. Of course, we have Download Festival, which is the main festival bringing us down there, and then we took that opportunity to book as many shows as we could around that time. And so we're going to be playing lots of stuff off of Will to Power, a lot of stuff off of War Eternal, but also a good amount of the old classics as well. And yeah, I'm just excited to get there and meet everyone and just have a good time.
Yeah, wicked. And you did come down with Camelot in 2013, so what was unique about Australian audiences?
Yeah, that was, in 2017, that's right. That was actually right after I got the phone call to join Arch Enemy, actually. So,
okay, cool.
So that was an exciting time. But, yeah, I just remember having a really good time at the shows, lots of people singing along, really welcoming, warm fans, obviously very passionate about metal and about music in general, and just very friendly, just like smiling, warm,
cool,
very friendly welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, you're in Arch Enemy these days, and Arch Enemy is something of a collective of the finest musicians in heavy metal, with members of Carcass, Nevermore, In Flames, Merciful Fate. Seriously, I could go on, but of course, you were in the excellent band The Agonist. There simply isn't a weak link with you guys, and I do feel that since you've come on board, the band's profile has been raised somewhat. So that's absolutely nothing against Angela, who's an extraordinary and a game-changing vocalist. But I do feel as though you bring an edge to the band that they probably needed, that allows them to cut through so much of the noise that's on the internet to attract new fans. So my question is...
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's praise thoroughly deserved. So what's it like going to work with these guys compared to the musicians that you've performed with in the past?
You said it. I mean, I'm surrounded by world-class musicians, and I have a business manager who is herself a world-class musician, which is Angela, of course. So it's really, I mean, I'm humbled by it, and I'm also very excited by it, because I just know that what we're going to create is just, for me anyways, and obviously for millions of people around the world, it's just very good quality music. And I think one of the most important things to the longevity of a band is that the members enjoy what they're doing. And we all really do. We all love music, and specifically we all love Arch Enemy. And so yeah, it's an amazing thing. I think, even still, even after hundreds and hundreds of shows, I'll be playing, and then I'll walk past, Charlie and be like, holy fuck, that's Charlie D'Angelo. Or, I'll turn around and be like, oh my God, there's Daniel Erlandson on drums. And, oh my God, that's Jeff Will. It's exciting, and they're my peers, of course, but I also really respect them as people and as musicians. And I think that, that is a big part of why Arch Enemy has been able to maintain popularity for so long, and maybe the reason why it seems to be gaining some momentum now. We just have a profound love and respect for music and good metal music, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, sweet. I'm so glad you mentioned Charlie, actually, because I'm also a bass player, and I've been wanting to ask somebody a question about him for about 20-odd years or so. And I've never really... I've done many interviews in my life, but I've never had the opportunity to ask somebody about what's it like working with Charlie, because I think he's one of the greatest bass players in rock and heavy metal.
He's great. I mean, he's like a statuesque performer. Just his stage presence alone is just super huge. And not only because he's insanely tall, he just has this great stage presence. He makes his bass look tiny, but he's also a great bass player. A lot of fun to jam with. A really nice person. Really fun to have on tour. Just a genuinely good person. I call him Professor Lee, which maybe some people have seen online, just because he's really intelligent and actually very sophisticated, and it's easy to have an in-depth, intelligent conversation with him, and he knows about so much, and he just retains information so well. You can name, I'm sure that when we get to Australia, he'll be, okay, so the last time we played here, it was about 40 degrees outside, and it was in late 2009, and we had actually played the show with, and he'll tell you everything about that day from the time you went on stage to what you ate, and he just retains all this information, and it's just a wealth of knowledge. And sometimes we call him Charlopedia also, just because he's like an encyclopedia of knowledge. So, yeah, he's fantastic, great bass player, great musician. He's actually the one who's in charge of writing our set list. So he has a really good sort of grasp on the structuring of the set list, what could work well, what order the songs should be in, and so he's sort of the brain behind that. And yeah, it's great to be in a band with him.
Yeah, sweet. No, look, thanks for answering the question, actually, because I have read that he has something of a photographic memory, so you've just confirmed that effectively, yeah. And he's been in so many different bands over the years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about...
Very interesting brain.
Yeah, sweet, yeah. Hey, let's talk about the album Will to Power, because of course it's the follow-up to your first recording with the band War Eternal. Was it easier for you to create and record Will to Power given that you'd been in the band for a few years?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a few times. It felt the same to me. Whether for good or bad, I felt very comfortable recording War Eternal even though that was my first album with the band, I felt very comfortable. So when it came time to do Will to Power, I was just excited to do it again. And it went by kind of the same way. It was pretty much the same process, and obviously different songs, but it was kind of the same process, And we record everything in Sweden, and that was the same engineer. So yeah, I don't know. I felt I just felt very welcome in this band right from the beginning, from the fans, from the band themselves, and musically, it just worked for me. So, yep. Will to Power was just like, all right, let's do it again.
Yeah, no, we could look. It's a tremendous record, by the way. My own take on it is I can actually, because I listen to The Agonist, I can actually hear more of an identifiable stamp from your good self through the new album than on the previous one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, the majority, let's face it, the majority of the world has no idea that I have any albums prior to War Eternal, and that's totally fine. But I think that some people, are surprised by my vocal performance on Will to Power, even to the point that I have a lot of people that don't believe that I'm singing on Reason to Believe. So, really? They're like, okay. Did you have Doro come in for a guest appearance? I'm like, no, that's me. People are like, who's singing? Is it a guest? Is it Lizzie Hale? Is it Doro? And I'm like, well, that's a huge compliment, but it's me. Yeah. And even still, we do these meet and greets, and people will come up to me and be like, is it really you? I'm like, yes, it's me. So, so that, that's interesting to me. I didn't necessarily go out of my way to, make my mark or anything like that. But I think, by that point, we had played hundreds and hundreds of shows together and knew each other personally a lot better, and musically as well. And so maybe there was just a little bit more room for me to do so, but it wasn't like a conscious thing.
Yeah, okay, great response. Yeah. So, look, I hope you don't mind me asking you a question, or it's not really a question so much as a statement wrapped in a question, actually. So, you've certainly covered your split with the agonist and the media, so I won't talk about that, but you must feel as though there's a sense of destiny about how you came to front Arch Enemy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's actually been super organic and smooth since I joined the band. Like, very kind of accepting and, like, not a lot of... I mean, obviously there was pressure, but there wasn't a lot of, like, nervousness, actually, you know?
Yeah, I get it totally. Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, like a healthy amount of concern, but somehow it felt very normal, like, right from the beginning. And I guess that's probably because I was already, you know, friends with Angela, and because she sort of hand-selected me, I guess. And maybe because I was just so familiar with Arch Enemy's body of work anyways. But yeah, it felt normal, it felt right. You know, I never had any, like, ambitions of joining any band, you know. In my head, it was just, I'm building a band from the ground up. Let's see how far we can take it. We're going to do this. Like, you know, like everyone. I never had any thought in my mind of being in any other band. Of course, I'm always happy to do guest appearances, like with Camelot or Delane or whatever, but, like, I never thought, like, one day I'm going to join Arch Enemy, but lo and behold, it happened, and it feels right, actually. Like, finally, after, you know, more than a decade of really struggling, it finally feels right. So, yeah, I have a lot to be grateful for sure.
Well, I think Angela was very smart to bring you on board, I must say, because your image is one of the most identifiable in heavy metal as far as I'm concerned, and it's almost a brand at this point. So the other great thing about you is I understand you've got a solo album in the works. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for the kind words. And I agree, Angela is a very intelligent person and a very intelligent manager. And so she, of course, does things that she thinks will benefit the band. And I think she was right in this case as well. Sorry, I actually got sick on the last day of tour, so I'm super sick right now, which I'm sure you can hear in my voice. But I have my tea and my water and doing my best to be able to keep talking. But
no, well, thanks for taking the interview. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah,
no problem. Just if you hear me coughing or like my voice shaking, I'm not like crying or anything. It's just I'm super sick. But yeah, so I do have a solo album, and that is also managed by Angela, and that's basically just. I mean, she knew how sort of heartbroken I was when, like, my time with my previous band was taken away from me, you know, like, she knew, I mean, there was a lot of people in the industry that were, you know, present while that was happening and know exactly how painful that was for me, and so I think she basically was like, well, just do it on your own, you know, and so I'm like, I didn't even think about that for years, and then last year she was like, well, why don't you do that? Because it didn't occur to me that, like, well, I can still make music however I want. It's just, I'll just do it on my own, you know, and so that's what it is, just basically a project for me to express anything that I want, whether it is something that I already express in Arch Enemy or something that I don't express in Arch Enemy. Just a way, just sort of another creative outlet. It's probably going to be quite a bit more abstract and a lot more clean singing than Arch Enemy, but just a way for me to kind of, I guess, you know, just, unveil or release like another side that maybe I didn't have an outlet for the last couple of years, you know? So now I'll have an outlet for it again.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, yeah. All right, look, I better wrap things up, but look, one final request. I'd love it if you could give me a signature for my radio show.
Sure.
Yeah, so I host, my name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I host Scars and Guitars on 4ZZZ. So if you could give me something around that, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, so basically you're listening to Scars and Guitars on 4ZZZ? That's
it, spot on. Yep, exactly.
Okay, all right, so you're recording?
Yep, recording. Go for it.
All right. Hey, this is Alissa White-Gluz from Arch Enemy, and you are listening to Scars and Guitars on 4ZZZ.
That was awesome. You are fantastic. You have, I mean, you had a wonderful career to date, but I just feel like it's all ahead of you. You know that. I think you'll be
Thank
around
you so
for a
much.
long time. Yep.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
All right. All the very best, and thank you. You are listening to Scars and Guitars, the podcast series. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was my conversation with Alissa White-Gluz, the frontwoman of Arch Enemy. Thank you so much for listening.